The adaptation layer of your resilience shield recognises your ability to do things that you never thought might be possible, armed with whatever you have right now. And when you think about it, the military's done a pretty good job at instilling in us the knowledge, skills, attributes and experience that we can use as a platform to do a variety of different things. The only thing that's standing in our way is our mindset. Let's take a novel view at what we can do to embrace adaptation.
So on this theme of adaptation, how do we bring all of this stuff together that we've discussed in those last 9 videos?
Well, a lot of what we have discussed in the last 9 videos might not be a surprise to you. And you might have done those things and then fallen out of good habits. And the first little tool, of course, is one of accountability. If you want to commit to change, there's a few things that you can do. Do it with a person.
I was going to say, you can tell your old army buddies you're going to do it, and they're going to hold you accountable because they'll burn you if you don't.
Yeah.
You know, setting up those kind of frameworks, a bit of friendly competition with a mate can be a good way of doing it.
And or tell everyone. It's pretty difficult to get out of something that you've committed to after you've broadcast it.
And I thought that was a good example with your 100-day challenge. I saw you'd set those goals and you were very good at keeping to them yourself. No sugar, no social media, that sort of focus. But I reckon having that little bit of extra sort of, I guess it's peer pressure, as you're reaching for that cupcake, just no.
It was self-induced accountability. I told everyone I was going to do it. It was nearly impossible for me to not complete it.
Yeah.
What about habits? What do we know about habit forming?
Well, it depends who you ask. What's the jury say in terms of timeframes to form a habit? You've done a bit of research on this.
I have, It's between 21 and 200 days, the academics tell us.
Helpful.
And that's not very helpful, no. Or when we can do something reflexively, where we don't have to think too much to force ourselves into undertaking that one little activity. But we'll simplify that a little bit. Do little things that contribute to a routine. So the same things every time. Our brain likes patterns, it likes things that are predictable, and you can help it out, certainly in the mornings and even in the evenings, by stringing good habits together. And then if one of those habits falls away, you might be travelling, you might be ill, perhaps you didn't get a chance to exercise today, or perhaps your nutrition was somewhat compromised, or even you had a poor night's sleep. Keep all of the other habits around that and then just work to reinsert that good habit.
Yeah, and I like the idea of reducing those barriers, making it smoother to get into that habit. So things like having a partner to go to the gym with makes it a bit harder to sleep through that alarm. Likewise, setting the bloody alarm clock over the other side of your room makes it a bit harder just to roll over and hit snooze, as does laying out your gym gear before you're about to go. But it can work in so many different ways. You know, packing a lunch or packing a week's worth of healthy lunches, you know, in a weekend when you've got a bit of time, can also just reduce that temptation to hit the burger joint at lunchtime.
They're all good nudges. And what about time boxing? How do we hold ourselves accountable in our calendars?
So I reckon this is a really powerful technique for a lot of us who are slaves to a diary. And you think about your work diary, you've got these things, you're going to hit that meeting, you're going to make that phone call, you're going to do that task. Well, why don't we schedule proactive, healthy resilience building habits in there as well? Make time to have a good conversation with a loved one, with a close person that you're near. Make time to do a period of mindfulness or sitting meditation. Make time to go for a run. Put it in your calendar, set that box just as you would a work call or another sort of professional commitment, and you'll find you're more likely to stick to it.
And you can also make time to procrastinate, but only hold yourself accountable against that time allocated.
And look, that's a great reflection as well, that you can make time to surf social media. You can make time to do junk stuff. Whatever it is, you know, having that time boxing technique means that you're more likely to adhere to the good stuff, but also you're less likely to run on with some of those other indulgences, if you like social media or procrastination.
One of the other little tools that I like is the concept of alive time versus dead time. Dead time, things that aren't contributing to your self-improvement. Alive time, things that are. And probably also contributing to your resilience. It's a good little self-test. Is what I'm doing now dead time or alive time? And if it's dead time, try and do less of it. or get away from it altogether.
And this is where that idea of accountability, and particularly for me, journaling can be a great way. You know, we said before in one of the videos on the body layer, what gets measured gets managed. If you don't reflect and identify, you know, did I spend as much time as possible in that lifetime, then it's easy just for your dead time spaces to increase.
Well, let's stay with journaling. How do we debrief our life? We've talked a lot about failure, things not going so well, but the view you take of that is what ultimately decides whether or not you're going to improve or not. What about journaling and habit forming?
I think for me, journaling has been massive, and a couple of my reflections on it. The first one, journaling is a tool. It is not your slave. When I started journaling, I thought, oh gee, I missed a day, I've got to go back and make that up, and oh, I forgot to write this thing in, and I'd get stressed. And that is completely the opposite of what it's supposed to be. So you're not beholden to it, it's a tool for you. It's a great tool to do a couple of things. One is to hold yourself accountable. It is pretty cool to be able to, at the end of the day, to write in, yeah, I had that connecting time, I had that live time with a close loved one. Yeah, I got a gym session or a run in. Yeah, I did some good quality work. Those things are ways of recognizing and celebrating those small successes. We talk about going always a little further. You know, just hitting those little marks every day and recognizing it in a journal is a really cool way of keeping you on the track. The other thing I think journaling does is it can help break that cycle of maladaptive rumination, you know, those thoughts rolling around in your head, those worries. A lot of people carry them to sleep, and journaling can be an excellent way of just getting them out of your head and onto paper. And in doing so, I often find something magical happens, that you get some perspective. I'll often write things down and see them from a different light. Quite often, you know, if I've got an issue in my family life, if I've got an issue with my business partner, I'll be writing it down. That guy, he kills me and he did this, and I'll be thinking, actually, maybe I'm the jerk here. It'll give me a different
More often than not.
It's a bad example because probably doesn't happen that often, but it does give you a different perspective. But moreover, it gets it out of your head and gets it into something concrete.
Yeah, Duncan Anderson, former military officer, long-time servant of RSL, including having been the president, talks about the way he journals, and he looks at the things that have happened in a day and what he can learn from them. But then at the end of the week, he aggregates those. Often we want to make improvements, we want to make them immediately, tomorrow, but that's not always possible. So he's able to bracket up all of these things that he thinks he could improve in himself at the conclusion of a week to implement in the next week. I like that.
That's really
a
cool.
neat way of doing it.
And it touches on that point of the journal being an artifact. It's something that's there. I mean, basically everything we know about Stoicism is by reading Marcus Aurelius's journals, which is published as meditations. But also at an individual level, it also means you can go back and look at these things. And gee, it is amazing to look at some of the stuff that I was getting worked up about even 6 months ago, and I'm thinking that is a non-issue. And it puts into perspective some of the things I'm getting worked up about now. Am I going to be worried about this in 6 months? Probably not. If I can get over myself and get on with life, then again, it's that perspective. It gives you a bit of distance.
It's a bit of social layer connective tissue in this concept of gratitude as well. You know, we talk about our own journaling, writing down the things that we're grateful for, even the smallest things, and those things should change every single day that you journal. But gratitude is super powerful in its transference.
Yeah. Well, you've been a champion of this. You've been a champion. I can't believe I just said that. You have been championing this in our workplace. And that idea of pro-social gratitude, there's a wonderful Huberman Lab podcast on this, but it amplifies the power of gratitude. So at an individual level, gratitude's so good for recognizing the good stuff you got in your life, and it primes you to look for it more and more, which is a cool little virtuous circle. But pro-social gratitude, where you're sharing things that you're grateful for with the person to whom you're grateful, that just puts it on steroids. Makes you feel good, makes you recognize what the goodness in your life, but it also makes that person feel valued, feel good, brings the oxytocin, not the OxyContin, the oxytocin, into the room in a really positive way.
Yeah, and you can try that with the family, use the words I'm so proud of or thankful for. That's a neat way of doing it. And I actually found it a bit prickly at the start, so I used to use a little technique from Maggie Dent, write on a post-it note what I was proud or thankful for my kids doing, and I'd stick it up on their mirror, and interestingly those post-it notes would stay there for months, I think, until they lost their adhesive and fell off. But it kind of went to show that the kids really appreciated it.
I'm so proud of my kids cleaning their room and that thing stays for a month. Yeah,
That's right.
it's great.